So let me ask you this. I've had the pleasure to get to know you and Eric Nixick, and it seems like Francis has an incredible team around him. And I'm wondering if you guys, or at least you, feel an extra pressure to deliver for Francis, given his backstory, which is...
Yeah, I would say absolutely. You know what I mean? Because like on the outset, when I started at CA, I like had my little whiteboard. I'm like, hey, here's who I would love to recruit and who I'd love to represent, right? And Francis was very high on that list. And when I got to know him, right, and the reason why you recruit a guy, period, is because of their talent, right? And you see the big picture, right? It's like, hey, I'm willing to bet that this guy's going to be champion someday. Like that's easy,
Yeah.
right? But once you then peel back the layers and start to know Francis and his story. I remember when he first told me his story. We're at a Nordstrom in LA in Century City, right across from our office. And he was telling me over lunch, I was like, this is a fucking movie. Like this
100%.
is a book and everything. I'm like, how is this dude here right now? And that's when I knew, because I'm a man of faith. Like that's, and I won't get into that, but I'm like, this dude was meant to be
Destiny.
champion. Like it is
Yeah.
like his story was told very well on Joe Rogan, right? That was the first time that we decided to like share his story, but it's not even like the details in which you guys will get when we do his book and when we do his movie. I mean, it's enough to make you cry. It's so easy to get emotionally attached to a guy like that because you aspire to have some of the qualities that he has and apply them to your own life.
Yep.
That's what makes it bigger than like a business transaction and manager, right? Like fighter. You know what I mean? Like I'm very blessed and thankful I have the opportunity to represent someone like Francis and his talents and everything like that. But more importantly, we've developed like he's like family to me. You know what I mean? Like, and I just want to see it's so beyond UFC business, is so beyond just like, you know what I mean? Like balance sheets or whatever you want to call it. So beyond like numbers and commissions and all that shit. Like real talk, Jesse, like I just want to see this fucking dude like realize as much as he possibly can because it's so like what is within him is so much fucking bigger than UFC's aspirations and my dreams and aspirations. Like he's impacting, like, right? Like I broke down in front of my wife when I saw one of the videos, it hasn't been released yet, of him being back home. I broke down because I'm like, fuck, I knew it. Like not only was he going to be champion, but him being champion means so much more to so many. It's like generational shit, Jesse. You know what I mean? So that's why, like, when you hear the passion in my voice, it stems from that. It stems from like him being much bigger than just some spoke on the wheel of the UFC train. Like UFC is gonna go on, but like that's what motivates me, and that's what makes it like different.
No, I understand. I'm being totally honest. I was trying to explain Francis's career to my aunt and uncle while I was at brunch earlier today. They're not UFC fans. They don't know who he is. And sometimes it's hard for me to actually even talk through his journey without choking up thinking about it. Like, actually, I'm going to be totally honest. It's actually very challenging for me to talk through it most of the time. And I can't even really explain why, other than that I am so inspired by that level of commitment. It's like the world that we live in right now is full of people telling themselves 1,000 different excuses for why they can't go get the thing that they want and why the deck was stacked against them and it's like Francis invalidates all of it. There's no one who's faced longer odds than him. You just think about like a regular UFC fighter who grew up in the lap of luxury, who's been training their entire life, and you think about the number of them who really make it, who make it big. The majority of people who headline a show, at least one show, are still going to end up broke and broken at the end of their career. And I'm not saying that to knock the UFC. I'm saying it to demonstrate the stakes of the game that they're playing. And Francis, in addition to how long these odds were, he had to go through hell on earth just to get to the starting point where he was already too old to even realistically think that he had a shot at it, and he just did it anyway. And so if you're over here and you're in college and you're looking at the world and you're telling yourself that there is some scenario where the deck's stacked against you so hard that you're not going to be able to achieve your dreams, you're only hurting yourself. And Francis's journey is what proves that. His journey matters. Like, it matters. And it inspires me. And when I talk through, like, I can talk through this conceptually, but when I actually try to tell the story to people sometimes, where he started, how many times he failed, paddling across the ocean with his bare hands, and then ultimately the fights when he fell to Stipe, and then how he came back, it's the most inspiring story ever. And if people could really wrap their brain around it, and then, or maybe you could even encapsulate a little bit of it and then hand it to these people, you could change their life. If they could even wrap their brain around it, it would change their life. That's why his journey matters. And it really, really matters.
Like, Francis, he didn't just try a few times. He tried 7 times. Like, most people that we know, like I don't even know if I would do that. What he did, and that's why I mean to tell you, like, I like look for that inspiration to like improve in my own self, because it's like you can't have excuses. I forget who who I was talking to. I don't know if it was you or whatnot, but like Eric Nixick, his coach, also another brother of mine, like I heard that a lot of times when the guys at Extreme Couture are like tired or exhausted or whatever, he points to Francis, right? To uplift them and encourage them to say, if that motherfucker is here and he's champion, you know what I mean? Like, and what he went through to become that, none of you have fucking excuses.
Nope.
Should have excuses. And like, and that's another thing. Like, Francis is unlike a lot of champions. You know what I mean? I don't know him all personally, of course, but like, he can do without. Like, this guy has survived with next to nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, money is like icing on the cake, but I mean, like, you know, you can't control a guy like him with money. That's why it's so important to also just echo from on Francis's behalf. It's not about that. It's about respect.
Yeah.
If you give Francis respect, that's it. And that's, I think that's the underlying thing. Is like, hey, UFC, like, let's get back to where we can find that common thread. Yeah. Because you can't impact a guy like Francis with money or the threat of or lack thereof. He's like, like, you know what I mean?
He's like, have you ever tried to paddle across the ocean with your bare hands?
Right. Like,
you haven't?
You know what I mean? Like adversity, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you can't even begin to describe it, what that guy's been through. So it's like, you know, he has such a interesting perspective because of his experiences, and he, like, and you can see it in the way that he just approaches the business aspect and the fight aspect when it comes to the UFC, the sport. It's so funny. I was asking him one day, you know, how he feels, you know, when he's fighting. He just looks at it as like, it's just a fight.